City leaders wrapping up a news conference not that long ago saying they've secured an assault-style rifle weapon used in the shooting of that innocent grandmother inside her Hartford home around 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. They also say they're about to charge a 35-year-old man in an unrelated shooting 20 minutes later across town with murder as well as illegal possession of a firearm from inside his hospital room.
Her smile, her cooking for everybody that's hungry, trying to keep everybody civilized. She just got a little dog, and that was her dog, that was her life there.
Cherished family photos of a Hartford grandmother known as Pebbles. Flying bullets from a believed drive-by shooting just after 5 Wednesday night blasted out car windows on Sisson Avenue before ripping through the first-floor apartment of 56-year-old Sylvia Cordova. The grandmother of 8 took her final breaths doing what she loved, cooking. Hartford police say they found Pebbles' lifeless body on the floor.
We believe that there was someone else that was targeted in that area regarding a dispute that had nothing to do with that area. The dispute had to do with a situation that evolved earlier in the day. And she was truly an unintended victim. But in this case, whenever there's an assault rifle involved, knowing the damage that these assault rifles can inflict, they really ramp it up a notch.
The gun violence continued less than 20 minutes later over in the North End in an unrelated double shooting on Kent Street that also turned deadly after 2 men had been shot. 23-year-old Trey Ward of East Hartford died Thursday morning. Those impacted by the city's most recent homicides have a message for those participating in the violence.
Stop with the gun violence. Stop it.
Late Thursday afternoon, Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin calling a news conference.
There are no words to describe our community's anger and frustration and grief.
Treleak Ward was shot and transported to the hospital. We also had a second victim from that scene. Aubrey Perry is the name, a 35-year-old male that was brought to the hospital as a result of that shooting. Detectives went out there, did an investigation, and we came to the conclusion that that was 2 people that were exchanging, that were involved in what is likely a narcotics transaction that somehow went bad.
And again, just clarifying the words of Chief Jason Thody here at Hartford City Hall not that long ago, the second shooting that was unrelated to the death of Sylvia Cordova. 35-year-old Aubrey Perry is in the hospital. He also suffered a gunshot wound in that second shooting. He's being held on a $1.2 million bond and will be charged with murder as well as illegal possession of a firearm in short order, according to Chief Thody. Now, addressing the violence going forward, Hartford's police chief also says that they are teaming up with different agencies and organizations on how they're going to tackle that, along with all the issues along Wethersfield and Franklin Avenues on the weekends. That is the latest live outside Hartford City Hall. I'm Jill Konopka, Fox 61 News.